Undisputed was the number one debate show during its time from 2016 to 2023, 7.5 spectacular years on FS1, rivaling the one and only First Take. It was between the controversial former sports columnist turned sports debate TV show personality Skip Bayless and braggadocious former three-time Super Bowl champion Denver Bronco, Baltimore Raven, Shannon Sharpe. And when this show was first announced back in 2016, not many people thought it was going to work, but boy did it work, and it worked spectacularly, mainly because of the chemistry that these two guys had. Every time that the Cowboys would lose, which is Skip's favorite team, Shannon would always be there with a prop of some sort, ready to mock Skip for him thinking that the Cowboys had a chance of winning this game. If the Lakers or Cavaliers lost, because LeBron was on the Cavaliers during the show's run, Skip would come in with a very hefty and scathing argument on why LeBron played so bad, and it would make for very compelling debates on both sides from Skip and Shannon. They would have awesome guests from the sports side and the entertainment side. On the sports side, they would have Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Ray Lewis, and many other sports figures to go with. Other sports columnists as well, Chris Broussard and Rob Parker. On the entertainment side, you had Nelly, Ice Cube, Michael Rappaport, even LeVar Ball during his peak of his fame. Nonetheless, it was a dominating force to be reckoned with. Many people thought that this was going to overtake First Take, no pun intended, as far as the number one sports debate show in the world. So why did they break up when they seemed to be hitting their stride, hitting their prime? 7 years, why not go on to 10? Well, this is basically the straw that broke the camel's back after the Buccaneers lost to the 49ers.
Every time
people thought that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And Skip Bayless has said before many times, this is a go for the throat type of debate show, to the point where he gets borderline disrespectful. And in this instance, he completely discredited Shannon Sharpe's entire Hall of Fame career by making it seem like Shannon was jealous of Tom Brady, when Shannon was doing exactly what the show got its fame based off of, and that's tell the truth, whereas these other sports debate shows really try and put a mask on an athlete's performance, and Shannon Sharpe does everything in his power to have you see the truth, and Skip does that too, basically to his own default. And many people were basically just waiting in the wings to see what would happen to this crew if they were to break up because of what Skip said on that fateful December Monday afternoon. And what happened was, around April 2023, it was announced in a bombshell article that Shannon Sharpe was going to be bought out by FS1, which means that Skip and Shannon were no longer going to be a dynamic duo in the sports debate television world. And a day after the NBA Finals, the 2023 NBA Finals, Shannon Sharpe was announcing his retirement from the show, and that he was being let go for the show, and that it was his last day on the show.
One more thing before you go, Skip. Okay. One more thing. All I ask is when you lay your head on that pillow at night, know I gave you everything I had.
You did.
I gave you everything I had.
Which is why I want to thank you.
It was my all-time favorite sports debate TV show. I didn't watch First Take. I woke up each and every morning and watched Skip and Shannon. So to see Shannon leave, it definitely brought some tears to my eyes, and it raised more questions than it did answers, because where was Shannon going to go? Was he going to go start his own thing? Was he going to sign with another television show? Was he going to sign with another network? Was Skip going to sign with another network? Was he going to bring on other guys to replace Shannon? We got those answers around the fall of 2023, where it was announced that Shannon Sharpe signed a lucrative deal with ESPN, started his own podcast with Chad Ochocinco Johnson, which is now the number one sports podcast in the world. And as far as Skip goes, Skip now was bringing on Keyshawn Johnson, Richard Sherman, Michael Irvin, and a bunch more people. Lil Wayne would come on every Fridays or so. He would bring on some of his Young Money affiliates that people had no idea who they were. When the NFL season ended, he brought on probably the best additions to the entire show during its run from August to June of 2024 was Rachel Nichols and Paul Pierce, because their basketball knowledge is unparalleled to anybody's that Skip thought could replace Shannon Sharpe. And the main person that did try to replace Shannon Sharpe was Keyshawn Johnson, who many people thought was not fit for the job. I went to a live taping of Undisputed, mainly because when the show got disbanded, I said to myself, okay, just because the show is over, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop supporting Skip and Shannon. Wherever Shannon goes, I'm going to follow and I'm going to watch. Wherever Skip goes, I'm going to follow and I'm going to watch. And it was at the height of Deion Sanders and Coach Prime Mania, the past college football season, where USC was playing CU Boulder, and Undisputed took their show on the road to Boulder, Colorado, and I thought this was my chance to see an idol of mine in Skip Bayless. I'm going to take the full opportunity to go up and see him 2-3 hours away from my hometown. And to be 100% honest, that was probably the first time I've ever been starstruck. Just to be in the aura of a guy like Skip Bayless was truly something to behold. And I was so blinded from the fact that this show became incredibly bad. With bringing on a new crew and Keyshawn and Michael Irvin and Richard Sherman, all Super Bowl champions and first ballot Hall of Famers, many people saw that the show just wasn't as good as it once was with Shannon Sharpe. And with that being, that's when the rumors started swirling around December 2023 that the show wasn't doing as good as it once was. First Take was averaging 540,000 views per episode, whereas Undisputed was only averaging 120,000, whereas during Skip and Shannon's peak of their show, they averaged 300 to 500,000 views per episode. And many people were absolutely destroying Keyshawn Johnson in the comment section by saying, Key is a master at talking for a long period of time just for him to say absolutely nothing meaningful. Keyshawn is one of the most annoying people in media, which he is. During basketball, people let him have it by saying, Keyshawn, stick with football, man. How is Sherm better at basketball topics than Key? Sherm was on fire this segment. Can tell he's trying to improve, unlike Key. That's why so many people admired Shannon Sharpe in the first place, because especially during the first few years of Skip and Shannon, many people were asking themselves, okay, how is a former Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl champion, going to be able to talk about basketball, a sport that he never played, with such veracity and such knowledge? And he answered all of our questions because he is probably the best former football player to know the game of basketball. It's just that plain and simple. Whereas Keyshawn Johnson didn't put in the time or the work like Shannon Sharpe did. And with Skip hiring all these new people, I noticed one thing. There was no moderator on his new show. There was no more Joy Taylor. There was no more Jenny Taft. There was no more Jen Hale. All 3 future baby mamas, might I add. There was no more of those girls. So instead, Skip was taking on the responsibility of moderating the show and having these quasi-fiery debates to the point where Skip didn't even look like himself anymore. He looked like a shell of himself because he couldn't debate the proper way in which made him famous. He couldn't have these sort of debates anymore.
Take me out, coach.
Oh, we ain't gonna talk about this.
Take me out. It's my turn. It is. You told me it was my turn.
You can talk all that you want to, yell and scream. You lost.
It is my turn.
You lost the game.
It's my turn.
It's almost like they told him, hey, you push Shannon Sharpe out the door by basically disrespecting him. So we don't want you to do that here with Keyshawn, Richard, Michael, all these other guys. So why don't you just pull it back a bit? That's literally what it did. It's almost like the network put Skip in his place to the point where he can't even debate like himself anymore. And that basically was the beginning of the end of the show, with views dropping, with Skip not debating like he once was, and with all these other former sports players and these quasi-sports analysts not knowing a single thing about what they're talking about. It led to the show's demise. Whereas Shannon Sharpe was on an upward trajectory unlike any other. He became probably the most influential podcaster of all time, surpassing Joe Rogan, might I add, by having the most viewed podcast interview with Cat Williams. And like I mentioned earlier, having the #1 podcast sports-wise in the world with Nightcap with Chad Ochocinco Johnson. Whereas you look at Skip Bayless's show, his podcast, the views are horrible. They aren't what they used to be. People are finding out that Skip Bayless is a one-trick pony because he hates on LeBron so much. Hating on LeBron can only take you so far. Yeah, it got him to a point as Skip and Shannon, to the point where Skip is making millions of dollars. But now people are just corny and tired of Skip's corniness and tired of him hating on LeBron, to the point where it ended the entire show. If you ask Shannon Sharpe about the entire situation and how it transpired, he was absolutely hurt by everything that happened.
Was that the straw that broke the camel back?
Good question.
See, if somebody else had said what Skip said, I wouldn't have batted an eye. But we're supposed to be teammates.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
And I think that's what hurt me more than anything. My teammate, that's what he thought of me. It's kind of like when somebody else says something like, nothing gets you more upset than when your boys hit
Or
you.
somebody who really, you said 4 names. I know one of them was Sterling
Yeah,
Sharp.
yeah, like my homeboy, and I know, like, we and my homeboys, we joke a lot, but I know where not to go.
It's to a degree.
Yes, you can joke, but let's not go there. Let's not play in that area.
Right.
And so I was like, and at that point in time, now here's the guy that I had stood up for Skip. When guys come on and try to take shots at Skip, I was there. I stood up. Nah, bro, this is not your show. This is Skip and Shannon. Mm-hmm. This ain't you. You're not going to take no shots. We're not going to do that, so forth and so on. And in that moment, to think that because I said Tom Brady wasn't playing well, and he wasn't playing well. And I think that's one of the things that most people like about me, because I don't have a problem. If a guy's not playing well, Cam, he's just not playing well.
And it happens.
Yes, and this is not to take away anything what that person has already accomplished. But we're talking about now. We're not talking about, we'll evaluate his career once it's over, but we're talking about in the moment. And he wasn't playing well. So I was just disappointed how it handled. I thought it could have been could have been handled better by management, but it was handled the way it was handled. I thank Fox for the opportunity. And the only thing that I get upset about, when I hear people say, Skip gave you, Skip made you. Now, had I not made it, what would y'all have said?
In the end, Skip lived by the sword and he died by the sword. The whole go for the throat, controversial, gut-wrenching style of debating that he does, that is very, very old school, might I add, it ultimately ruined his career. And now there's no telling on if his career will ever be resurrected, because many people are speculating he might go back to ESPN and do an Avengers-style sports debate show with Shannon and Stephen A., but I don't think Stephen A's fake black Muppet having ass will let that happen. So it's safe to say that this little argument that was had over Tom Brady was the end of Skip Bayless.